Imagine NBA stars making millions, living the dream, and still getting robbed, betrayed, and manipulated by their partners in ways you won't believe. I'm talking about life insurance cash getting burned, exes orchestrating players' deaths, and fake Harvard advisors stealing millions from their accounts. And if you don't get how deep this goes, wait till you hear how Michael Jordan's wife almost walked away with everything he had. Yeah, everything. But before we talk about him, let's start with Lorenzen Wright. Lorenzen wasn't some regular NBA guy. The man played 13 seasons, built a real career, and pulled in over $55 million in NBA earnings. Memphis, Atlanta, Cleveland, Sacramento, the dude was everywhere, a classic tough big guy from that era, where you had to put in real work if you wanted to get respect and stay employed for over a decade. By NBA standards, that's success. And then, in the summer of 2010, he just vanished without any warning. 10 days later, his body was found in a wooded area outside Memphis. He had been shot multiple times, execution style. And once that news broke, the story immediately stopped being about basketball and turned into something way darker. Because the call that ended up cracking the case wasn't some anonymous tip. It was a 911 call Lorenzen himself made while he was being chased. You could hear the gunshots in the background and the fear in his voice. And that haunted people for years because the case went cold almost immediately. At first, nobody knew who did it. Then, slowly, piece by piece, the focus shifted to someone nobody wanted to suspect. His ex-wife, Shara Wright. Here's where it gets ugly. Shara didn't pull the trigger herself, but prosecutors later found out that she orchestrated it all from top to bottom, hired the shooter, Billy Ray Turner, helped set Lorenzen up, and in 2017, she was arrested. In 2019, she pleaded guilty to facilitation of first-degree murder and conspiracy.
She denied it over and over again for almost a decade, but today, Shara Wright reveals she knew all about the murder of her husband, Memphis basketball star Lorenzen Wright.
And then people started digging into the money. Lorenzen had a $1 million life insurance policy, which was meant for his 6 children. But instead of that money being protected for the kids, Shara burned through most of it on cars, a house, furniture, and expensive trips. The kind of spending that makes everyone stop and go, wait, what exactly is happening here? And one of those people was Lorenzo's father, because he didn't trust her. He went to probate court and basically said, this money is disappearing and the kids are going to be left with nothing. The court agreed enough to step in, force the creation of a trust, and require legal accounting of where the money was going. That does not happen unless a judge thinks something is seriously off, and that's where the motive conversation exploded. Because Shara's lawyer tried to flip the narrative, claiming that the motive behind what she did wasn't the money, but that she had endured years of abuse and lived in fear. Which sounds smart, except the divorce had already been finalized months before Lorenzen was killed. So yeah, that weakened the defense a lot, and rightly so. But honestly, people weren't just angry about the murder, it was more about what happened after. Shara was sentenced to 30 years, but under Tennessee law, she could be eligible for parole in roughly 9 years. So after murdering a man who left behind 6 kids and stole all the money meant for his kids, she could spend just 9 years and be free. If that isn't injustice, I don't know what is. But if you think this is the most twisted case, the next story makes even Shara look like a small-time criminal. After a murder for insurance money story, you'd think it couldn't get any darker without someone else dying. Well, this one is different because nobody got shot. They just got absolutely financially erased, and it is all centered around one woman, Peggy Ann Fulford. Peggy Ann Fulford didn't come into athletes' lives with a ski mask or a gun. She came in smiling, polished, confident, and saying all the right things. She told people she was Harvard educated, and it was not just one degree. She had degrees from law school and business school, the whole elite package, the kind of resume that instantly makes your guard drop, especially if you're a young athlete who just went from college dorms to millions of dollars overnight. And that's the first key thing here: timing. Peggy didn't target random people. She went after athletes during moments of chaos, either signing new contracts, transitions, retirement, or divorce, or just plain loneliness. Dennis Rodman, for example, was already dealing with addiction issues and financial instability when she stepped in. She didn't find broken people by accident. That was her strategy. She would introduce herself not as a hustler, but as a savior. Someone who didn't even need the money. Someone who said she worked for free because she was already wealthy. That line alone should have been a red flag the size of a billboard, but it worked. Why? Because it flipped the power dynamic. Suddenly, the athlete wasn't the rich one being targeted. They felt chosen. Once she was inside, she took total control of everything from the bank accounts to passwords, credit cards, and financial mails. Some victims later said they didn't even know where their money was kept anymore. And here's where it gets wild. She didn't slowly skim a little off the money. She went full vacuum mode with millions moved out of their accounts and into hers, then straight into luxury cars, airline tickets, rent, shopping sprees, and real estate. All while telling the athletes their money was safe and invested. Dennis Rodman later said he trusted her so much that she controlled nearly everything. By the time he realized something was wrong, there was basically nothing left. Same story with Travis Best and Rashad McCants. And yes, former NFL star Ricky Williams too. These weren't dumb people. These were people who trusted the wrong person at the wrong time. There were also rumors and multiple victim accounts that revealed that she also got involved with the players romantically. Because trust is easier to steal when someone feels emotionally connected to you. Now let's talk about the credentials, because this part is funny as heck. Remember the Harvard Law and Business School degrees we mentioned earlier? Well, it was all fake. And she wasn't just lying a little. She invented a whole new identity with different names and backstories depending on who she was talking to. When the case finally caught up to her, the damage was already irreversible. Some victims were completely broke. And in 2018, the hammer finally dropped. The court sentenced her to 10 years in prison, with nearly $5.8 million in restitution ordered. And even then, people questioned whether that was enough, because let's be real, you can't repay lost years, destroyed trust, or the psychological damage of realizing someone dismantled your life piece by piece while smiling in your face. And the public reaction was also divided. Some people blamed the athletes for being naive. Others pointed out that the system does almost nothing to prepare young players for predatory manipulation. The story got so big that she had a whole documentary made about her.
Peggy targeted athletes.
I handed over $6 million to Peggy. She was friend, she was family.
Like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
And if you think this was the worst story of betrayal in NBA history, wait until you hear about the next one. After hearing what happened to Lorenzen Wright and Dennis Rodman, you might think nothing could top that level of chaos. But then you remember Dirk Nowitzki, one of the most low-drama superstars the NBA has ever seen, with no scandals and no mess. At least until 2009. At the absolute peak of his career, Dirk was engaged to Crystal Taylor. Not dating, not casually seeing. Engaged. I mean, ring on the finger, wedding planning type of engagement. And then, out of nowhere, police showed up at Dirk's own house and arrested her. And apparently, she had multiple outstanding warrants, from actual theft to violating probation. And it turned out this wasn't some recent mistake. This was the end of a very long criminal paper trail that somehow never came up until now. Crystal Taylor had a history of forgery, theft, and fraud that stretched back more than a decade. One of the most embarrassing details was that she had literally been arrested before for not paying for dental work. I'm not exaggerating. That's on record. And the probation she violated while living with Dirk came from a 12-year-old forgery and theft case she never properly resolved. So when she was arrested in Dallas, the whole thing exploded publicly. Dirk was in the middle of the NBA season when this happened. Cameras were everywhere, reporters were relentless, and suddenly this quiet franchise legend had to explain why his fiancée was being taken away in handcuffs from his house. Then, it somehow got worse. Around the same time, Crystal told people she was pregnant with Dirk's child. And of course, the story spread fast, but almost immediately, the details didn't add up. Medical records didn't support it. And eventually, it became clear that the pregnancy claim was not true.
Fiancé at the time got arrested.
And you applied for custody of a kid that didn't exist because she said she was pregnant.
Yeah, correct, which we didn't know at the time.
Right.
So it was heavy stuff.
Crystal Taylor was sentenced to 5 years in prison for violating probation. And once all the records came out, people started asking the obvious question. How did someone with that kind of criminal past get anywhere near one of the most valuable and trusted players in the NBA? That question followed Dirk for years, even though he was clearly the victim. He called the situation painful and embarrassing. And fans couldn't believe that someone so careful with his career nearly tied himself legally and financially to someone like that. But moving forward, the engagement ended quietly, and Dirk moved on. His career recovered. But that moment showed how fast a personal relationship can spiral into a public disaster, even for someone as cautious as Dirk Nowitzki. But at least Dirk Nowitzki was able to cut ties and move on. What do you do when the mother of your 3 children is out to drain you of everything you have? Well, that's the story of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy and Caitlin Nowak share 3 children together: Riley, Brian, and Kian. That part isn't disputed. What is disputed is what support actually means when one parent is an NBA superstar making tens of millions a year. According to court filings, Jimmy has been paying roughly $55,000 a month in child support. On top of that, there was a period where he also paid $10,000 a month for a nanny, and that's where things started to crack. Jimmy's legal team wasn't having it. They argued that Caitlin was padding expenses and turning childcare into a tool to support her lavish lifestyle. What do you mean you hired a nanny that costs $10K a month? That's more than most families' mortgages. Was it really about the kids, or just a way to keep Jimmy's wallet on permanent leash? Nowak's argument is the classic. It's all about the well-being of the children line, which translates into, give me everything now and don't question it. And yes, it sounds reasonable until you start doing math and realize that those numbers were weird. Social media and NBA fan forums erupted, and people were calling it the ultimate NBA salary versus child support showdown, because Jimmy is paying for his kids. He's doing what he's supposed to. But at what point does child support stop being about the kids and start being about control and extortion? But here's the messy reality. The legal system locks in numbers. Once it's approved, there's no going back. So the inflated numbers turned into his permanent obligations. And for someone like Jimmy, who isn't broke but also isn't printing money, that's a trap. But trust me, if you think arguing over a nanny bill is wild, the next NBA star didn't just deal with over-the-top child support. He got tangled in a multi-million-dollar settlement scam that almost vanished into thin air. Hassan Whiteside and his ex-girlfriend, Alexis Gardner, had a relationship that ended civilly, or at least it seemed that way. To make it clean, Hassan agreed to a $3 million settlement which was supposedly for compensating Gardner for her time and support during their relationship. $3 million sounds like a clean break, right? Well, hold on. Whiteside wired $2.75 million to the attorney handling the deal, Michael Avenatti. Yeah, that Michael Avenatti, the guy who later became infamous for Stormy Daniels and a laundry list of other criminal convictions. Here's where it gets wild. Avenatti pocketed almost all of that money. We're talking private jet shares, flashy lifestyle expenses, and straight-up lying about what Gardner was owed. Bro was willing to swipe it all.
Well, Jesse, a new lawsuit reveals that Michael Avenatti allegedly embezzled some of his own clients' cash and spent it on a private jet. The lawyer is accused of squandering a $3 million settlement.
Alexis Gardner, who was expecting a life-changing payout, saw only about $194,000 hit her account. The rest? Gone. And every time she asked, Avenatti fed her excuses. It was either the payments are processing or the funds are on the way, while he was basically living off the settlement like it was his own personal bonus. By 2022, karma finally caught up. Avenatti was sentenced to 14 years for embezzling from multiple clients, including Gardner. But for Whiteside, he became the accidental headline. Public perception briefly painted him as the problem, when really, he was the one being robbed. Both Whiteside and Gardner tried to play it cool publicly, but behind the cameras, it was chaos. I mean, how does $3 million just vanish like that? On one side, I'm happy his ex-girlfriend didn't get the money. But on the other side, Hassan still lost $3 million, and twice if you think about it. Next up, we're diving into Jordan's huge divorce, the one that cost him hundreds of millions and shook the NBA world like nothing else. If you think NBA salaries are big now, imagine what it looked like when Michael Jordan, the guy who basically took the league global, went through a divorce in the mid-2000s.
Statement from attorneys who represent the couple. It reads, Michael and Juanita Jordan mutually and amicably decided to end their 17-year marriage. A judgment for dissolution of their marriage was entered today. There will be no further statements.
Remember, this was back when Jordan's name alone made the league billions. So when the marriage with Juanita Vinoy broke up in 2006 after 17 years together, the entire league went into shock. And you can't blame them, because Michael and Juanita met in the late 80s, got married in 1989, and for almost 2 decades, they seemed like the picture-perfect NBA power couple. I mean, after 3 kids, 6 championships, and the biggest brand the NBA ever witnessed. What more could you possibly want? But then, behind the scenes, that public image couldn't be further from the truth. From the infidelity rumors to the tension from the stress of constant travel and the pressure of carrying a franchise on his back while trying to be a present husband and father. It was messy, and like most things in MJ's life, it got expensive. Really, really expensive. After the divorce finally became official in 2006, Juanita reportedly walked away with about $168 million. That's larger than the entire career earnings of some second-round NBA players. And remember, this was at a time when Michael's reported NBA career earnings hadn't even topped $95 million. In other words, she got paid more from the divorce settlement than the NBA had paid him in total. But it gets crazier. Juanita didn't just take the cash, she also took the 7-acre Chicago mansion, and she got joint custody of their 3 kids. And oh yeah, the costs didn't stop at the $168 million. The legal battles were long and expensive, meaning Jordan paid tens of millions more in attorney fees. When the press initially reported it, the official line was amicable divorce and mutual respect. But insiders later leaked a very different narrative. This wasn't 2 adults walking politely away from each other. This was a tectonic shift in one of the most public relationships in sports. And perhaps the biggest lasting impact was the prenup playbook that came after that. After this, MJ's second marriage to Yvette Prieto in 2013 came with one of the toughest prenups in celebrity sports history. Which is fair, considering what the man went through before. Next up, let's talk about Allen Iverson and Tawana Turner. If you are one of those NBA fans who think NBA money makes everything easy, Allen Iverson's divorce story would hit you like a reality check you didn't see coming. See, Iverson and Tawana Turner were high school sweethearts turned power couple. They got married in 2001, 5 kids deep, and living the NBA life, until everything cracked. When Turner filed for divorce in 2010, it was absolute chaos, like a reality show playing out in real life, except with NBA money and very real consequences. The couple eventually settled for about $3 million plus assets and child support. Sounds tidy, right? Except it wasn't. Turner wanted to make sure she wasn't just covered for now, so she demanded roughly $1.2 million in future child support payments running through 2026. Iverson was ordered to pay about $8,000 a month. But let's just say being on time wasn't always his strong suit. But here's where it gets even messier. Iverson, despite being one of the NBA's brightest stars, had a history of financial chaos. At the time, he was young, so he blew through money. And Turner, meanwhile, was playing her cards like a pro and waiting to hit him where it hurt the most. It wasn't only about the money. It was also about control, leverage, and making sure he was at her mercy. And yet, the ultimate twist is that years later, Iverson and Turner reconnected and reconciled, with Iverson publicly saying that the divorce was a turning point that ultimately led him to change his life and become sober. That's right. The couple who fought over millions and custody ended up back together. Matt Barnes and his ex-wife Gloria Govan had a relationship that was messy enough on camera. She was a reality TV personality on the show, Basketball Wives, while he was known as a tough defender in the league. But then their divorce took it to a whole new level. After his split from Gloria Govan, their relationship didn't just end with a signature on a divorce document. It exploded into lawsuits, embezzlement claims, and family betrayals that could make anyone's head spin. The couple first locked horns over child support. Barnes ended up settling back payments for roughly $275,000, which at least closed that chapter. Kind of. But here's where it gets messier. Barnes fired back with his own lawsuit. He claimed that Gloria, her brother, and her parents allegedly embezzled over $300,000 from his accounts to buy a property in California without his knowledge. We're talking forged signatures, a shell company Mengo LLC, and financial maneuvering that would make even Wall Street blush.
2014, there was something about her forging a signature on a $150,000 loan. Then there was, in 2018, you sue her for allegedly embezzling $300,000.
That's how far Gloria was willing to go.
Well, that's why I say there's a bunch of lawyer fees.
And like all villains do when they get caught, she countersued for defamation, claiming Barnes's public accusations were hurting her career and reputation. And yes, the drama also included unauthorized charges on Barnes's credit card, allegedly tens of thousands of dollars, which she denied. And as messy as this sounds, brace yourself, because finally, we get to talk about Anthony Edwards. This one is one of the wildest cases I've seen. At just 24, Edwards found himself caught up in a pregnancy and custody drama with 39-year-old Aisha Howard. Let that keep ringing in your head, because it provides context for everything we are about to talk about. Aisha Howard discovered she was pregnant in early 2024. According to court filings, when she told Edwards, he told her to get an abortion and that he wasn't ready to be a father. But like a lot of these women who get involved with athletes, she decided to keep the pregnancy and give birth to the child so she could tie him down financially. Keep in mind, this same woman already did the same thing with hip-hop artist Lil Baby, tied him down financially with a child, and she still receives childcare payments till date. So, Anthony Edwards initially didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore, but he didn't want the child to suffer for his mother's behavior. So fast forward to a couple of months after, DNA tests confirmed Edwards was the father of their daughter Aubrey Summers. So naturally, he wanted some custody. And as everyone had predicted, she went forward and asked for a $500,000 settlement fee, monthly childcare payments, plus a public apology and other conditions before signing any custody agreement. Even Joe Budden talked about it on his podcast.
Does anyone else have anything to say
I
on
say this
this,
shit is
on this matter?
disgusting, bro. It's disgusting.
That commentary was
nasty.
wild.
According to her legal team, these demands weren't just about custody, they were for reputational damage. How is your reputation damaged when initially you had nothing going on for yourself except that you were a baby mama to a popular rapper? Well, Edwards offered $1 million up front, which she denied because she wanted to keep milking him of his money on a monthly basis.
There was a rumor going on the internet saying that he paid the $1 million plus in child support all up front, $5,000 per month. She came out and debunked that. At the same time she was debunking it, I was talking to my girl debunking it too. No way that the girl is agreeing to that, buddy.
She's basically confirming what we all thought.
That she's a gold digger.
A lot of us thought. You know what I mean? She's confirming that you haven't, even though they don't want to say it, you having the baby for a reason. Period.
Till now, the case hasn't been fully resolved, and the fallout continues to drag Edwards' name through headlines and online commentary, making this one of the most talked about and NBA off-court dramas of 2024-2025. The thing is, all of these stories leave you with the same weird feeling. And it's not even really about the money. It's more about trust. Because contrary to what many people think, the higher you get in the game, the more vulnerable you become. Lorenzen found out too late. Rodman learned the hard way. Dirk barely got out. And even MJ, at the absolute top of the basketball world, was basically one bad signature away from losing everything. So here's what I'm really asking you. If you were in their position and you had all that fame, pressure, and money coming in faster than you could process, do you think you'd see it coming? Or would you make the same mistake? What would you have done differently?